What's up, y'all? My name is Keenan, and I find myself to be in an interesting place in life right now. I have always struggled with happiness. Since the age of 8, I have suffered from anxiety and depression and things of that nature. And I used to believe that happiness was this unattainable thing for me, that it was something out of my reach, that simply watching other people be happy and feel happy and honestly want to wake up and enjoy the day as the day goes by. It was something that I could never relate to. I was in constant amount of just self-doubt, of pain, of trauma that I needed to overcome to even start to break that idea of happiness being impossible in my mind. I was born with a speech impediment, so growing up, it was very hard for me to communicate how I felt. Can you imagine having the ability or the understanding of exactly what you're trying to say, but whenever you try to use your mouth to get it out, other people can't understand it or they can't register the things that you're communicating? So I was always a frustrated kid before I learned and coped through my speech impediment, because I understood myself, but nobody around me could understand me. And so in a way, I kind of have to train myself to be understood by other people. I had to learn how to communicate in a way that other people could receive me, but in a way I always felt like I understood myself. I always had that piece of me that knew exactly what I wanted to communicate to this world, but this world couldn't take it. And so on top of my speech impediment, I grew up in Atlanta, and one of the things about Atlanta is there's a big monolith about black men or just black culture within, at least when I was growing up, with how a man should appear and how a man should be. And from a kid, I always knew I was different. I wasn't like other guys. I was a more emotional dude. People would try to label me as effeminate, just find ways to make me feel as if the man that I am is less than the men that I see around me. I wasn't that materialistic, so I got bullied for things like shoes and clothes, and even not having my hair done in a certain way in which other people deem fitting. And so I always took the pain and trauma that people put onto me, and at a young age, I just recognized that the world could be very cruel. That from kids to adults, there's a lack of compassion and empathy within human culture. As much as we like to say that we are these loving and complex beings, I feel like in a way we have grown okay with being harsh to one another, which is a very sad thing for me to notice. And I noticed that at a young age. So in the midst of me being bullied, in the midst of my trauma and what I was experiencing growing up, I never wanted to take that and use that as an excuse to be cruel to the world that I already knew was suffering. I wanted to take that pain and that trauma, and what helped me cope was I used to mask a lot growing up. I used to always appear happy. I used to go to school smiling and giggly. And by the time I got home, tears will always fill my pillow because I was suffering on the inside, but on the outside, I made it look like I was okay, at least to friends and family and people of that nature, And despite me not wanting to put that same cruelty and pain and trauma out into this world, I used to take a lot of it and store it onto myself, or push it onto myself. What people used to say about me, I used to take it in and I used to digest it and I used to believe it. Almost hate myself to the point where I became the things that they were trying to describe me as. And I'm really just now starting to understand that you can't self-hate yourself into self-loving yourself. You can't try to beat up on who you are constantly and expect yourself to improve and expect your mentality about yourself to change as well. This year, I have been working on being a lot kinder with myself when it comes to wanting to change certain things about my life. I'm also learning to just have a lot more of a positive outlook on the things that I'm experiencing. I feel as if when you're kind and genuine person, you're bound to experience a lot more pain in this world. And that's simply because of the love and the energy that you wish to put out is often not what you receive. And so I reached the point in my life where I'm also not going to limit the energy and the love that I put out into this world. I no longer fear the idea of not receiving the same love and care that I put out into this world. I more so fear now the idea of those people causing me to give up on putting out the same love I want to into this world. My freshman year of college really broke me. I was going through a lot with friendships. I was going through a lot with being ghosted by different relationships. And then the biggest thing for me, I fell in love with a friend that I probably just had no business being in love with, honestly. And my whole mentality was very dark. I always, like I said, I suffered from depression and anxiety since I was 8. So suicidal thoughts and things of that nature always ran through my life. I had my attempts in my life. None of them worked out. In freshman year, I almost had another one. But what really stopped me was that it was my brother's birthday, and I couldn't imagine causing him that type of pain. And so I stuck around, and came the ending of freshman year into the summer going into sophomore year, I realized that I was sick of being sad. Like, I spent most of my life being depressed. I spent most of my childhood being an adult in a way, because I was always recognizing how being a kid wasn't as easy as people made it out to be. I was always called mature for my age in a way that kind of made me resent my childhood, because it felt like, when did I have the time to authentically be a kid? I was always battling with other people's opinions about me. I was constantly trying to find peace in this world. And the main part about it, and instead, like, no one really teaches you about emotions, especially when you're a young black male growing up in a society that wants to label you as one thing and one thing only, and that's their opinion, their perspective of you. And so I was just going through so much pain and hurt. And when that summer came, I realized that I was sick of it. I was sick of spending my life unhappy. I was sick of not being able to enjoy the man that I was. I was sick of having a positive outlook on this world, on everything else but myself. I was tired of that. And so the summer of freshman year, or the summer going to sophomore year, I told myself I wanted change. And it first started with my appearance. I changed the way I dressed. I changed the way I felt about myself. And I now can say I didn't realize how deeper it got since that one little change that I decided to make. But from the change in my fashion to the change in just believing in who I am, I now reached the place where I love myself, and I have been the most authentic version of myself ever since my childhood. I want to lead my life with compassion. I don't really care about being perfect. I don't think being perfect is ever a possibility. You're a human being. You're going to react to certain things in a negative way sometimes. You're going to blow up when you don't understand somebody's perspective. But overall, you're able to always come back and reground yourself outside of your feelings, and understand that we're all human beings. Everybody is simply trying to make the best of this one life that they're given, no matter their age, no matter their appearance, no matter their race, their gender, just regardless. We're all are living on this planet at the same time, and we're trying to understand an answer that nobody has, and that's what's the purpose of this life. And throughout this process of wanting better for myself, I'm recognizing that even though I no longer see happiness as this impossible thing, I still struggle with it. And one of the things I struggle with about happiness is I'm recognizing that happiness is bigger than just a feeling. I feel like people gotta understand that you have to wake up every day and find a reason to smile. You have to find a reason to be comfortable and okay with this world, because it can be harsh, it can be cruel. And I never want people to feel invalidated by the fact that this world isn't always sunshines and rainbows, because if that was the truth of the matter, a lot of us wouldn't be having the emotions that we're experiencing. But I'm also learning and understanding that not everything needs to be happy. Not everything needs this Not every day has to be this exciting thing where you find enjoyment to the fullest extent, where your dopamine is at the top of the margin and you just feel very positive and very excited about life. Sometimes you need to be still. Sometimes you have to live in that sadness and understand that it's a part of you, because you wouldn't know happiness if you didn't know what it meant to be sad. And as much as people try to make it seem like your mentality or your choice of mind is choosing to actively be sad, like I said before, sadness exists in this world. It's a part of us. So therefore, you gotta understand that your emotions are all working hand in hand. In a way, when the moments are not happy, you got to be okay with sitting in that sadness or sitting in that feeling, but not too long, always trying to find the positive outlook despite it. But understanding who you are and how you're feeling is such a big important thing. So don't ever let anybody tell you that you don't have the right to be sad, because at the end of the day, like I said, we're all human beings and we're all just trying to simply figure out what it means to live. One of my favorite shows for philosophy and just the talk and discussion about life and the realness of it is an animated series, and that's Avatar: The Last Airbender. And within the series, I remember Aang speaking to somebody wise. I can't remember exactly who it is, but he told them, "I want to be happy." And the person responded by saying, get rid of the I, get rid of the want, and get rid of to be, and just leave happy. Because sometimes that's all it is, happy. It's not I want to be happy. There's already things in your life that you can be happy about. And sometimes you're just left with happy. And so within eliminating this idea that there's a need for you to change every little grain around you in order to produce happiness, I think that pushes a lot of us to a point where we feel like we can't find enjoyment in our current situation. And that's why I believe a lot of us, we don't really crave happiness. We don't really crave a place where we can enjoy and find positivity in life. A lot of us crave comfort, and we confuse that for happiness. We want comfort. We want to be able to be, when I have enough money, when I have this person in my life, when I have friends, when I have these things of this nature, then I'll be okay with waking up every day. And that's not happiness, that's comfort. You want things in your life that will put you in a place where you're bound to just be okay with how life going. But at the end of the day, you never know what's going to come once you get those things. You can get the car, you can get the money, you can get the house, you can get the girl, you can get your significant other, but then you don't know if the mortgage is going to be too much, or if the person is going to take the time to understand. You don't know. So in this desire to crave comfort, we confuse it for happiness, and that we need to look outside of ourselves or look into the future in order to find enjoyment in the now. But if you simply wake up and you find something to appreciate every single day, happiness can feel a lot more natural. It can feel a lot more easier. And then also on the days where you're not feeling happy, you're able to understand yourself and say, okay, I'm not happy today, but tomorrow may be a better day for me to be happy. You never know. Be gentle to yourself. Be kind to the person that you are. Like I said earlier, you can't self-hate yourself into self-loving yourself. And happiness is not this impossible thing for you. There's already a person inside of you that chooses to wake up every day and continue living, because they understand that this life isn't as bad as our mind want to make it out to be, So once again, my name is Keenan. I struggle with happiness, but so do you. And so does every other human being on this planet, because like I said, we all don't have the answer to this life. So just live it, experience it, and experience it as it comes.